there is a global shift happening. This is actually the first time in history when it has been safe for a woman to be heard, to be seen, to create her own independence. Because of this, the world is entering a feminine uprising, a feminine healing.
Well, hello there, prosperity seekers. Welcome to another episode of the Prosperity Approach. I'm your host, Allyson Chavez. Holy cow, I cannot even tell you, first of all, how happy I am that you have joined me and that you are listening to this particular episode, because we are going to talk today about the real world benefits of embodying feminine energy and how to actually do that. But before we dive there, quick reminders: if you're listening to the audio version of this episode, be sure you're following this podcast on your favorite app. If you're watching this on YouTube right now, be sure to click that red subscribe button below and click the notification bell so that you'll be notified every time we release a new episode. And to see what we're up to and to get more free resources to really help you really get into the prosperity approach and redesign your reality so that you're experiencing higher and higher levels of success without struggle, come visit us over at AllysonChavez.com. We've got meditations over there, lots of resources, downloads, all for free. That's going to help you in your journey. So this is why I'm so excited about our episode today, because I get to show you off I get to show off one of my dearest friends. She's been on as a guest before, but I can't ever get enough of her. So we're going to have a really gorgeous conversation with Laurel Dawn Huston today. Because in my opinion, she is like the quintessential expert on feminine energy and embodying feminine energy, but doing it in a way where it doesn't emasculate men. It's not done from like this feminist kind of approach to it, where we're not fighting men. We're not battling anything out other than like really our own demons and the things that we've been taught. And it's such a safe conversation to have about feminine energy with Laurel. And she is, I mean, you all love her. And if you are not familiar with her, you are going to adore her by the end of this conversation. So Laurel, thank you for being here today.
Oh, Allyson, thank you so much. It is always a pleasure, not just to be on your podcast, to just be with you. This is why you have been and will always be one of my dearest and truest friends. And it has been a pleasure to come on before, and I cannot wait for this conversation. So,
we were talking before the podcast, before we started, and and I started mentioning some things. I'm like, what are we going to talk about? I mean, I know we're talking about feminine. She's like, we're going to have a spicy conversation today. I know it. And we absolutely are. Because this conversation about feminine energy and really embodying it and understanding how it actually works and how to embody it is the most relevant conversation that we can have today in today's world, where quite honestly, women are being destroyed in subtle ways and not so subtle ways. So, I don't know if we want to set it up for the spice right away, but I'm like, Laurel, we got to have this conversation because of what's going on in this world today. So where do you want to start with that?
First thing that came to my mind actually is one of the things I said to you right before this call, is that for centuries, really, women have their worth has been placed on their ability to produce life and carry on a bloodline and carry on a name. And so a lot of the programming I think that women need to recognize is this isn't just society, but this is actually coded into your DNA, because you have centuries, generations worth of women that were told, get married so that your livelihood is taken care of, produce life so that your bloodline continues, and that is what brings you value. So you have all these women that aren't doing those things or are doing those things, and they're letting it be their value. And then we were also told to give, to be generous, to serve, to put everyone's needs above our own. And to be perfectly honest and perfectly blunt, that has been the destruction of women. Feminine energy is the invite energy. It's the pull energy. It's the seduction energy. It's the receive energy. What word did I not use in there? Give. Women are not natural givers.
Oh, hold on. You need to say that again, Laurel.
Women are not natural givers. There is nothing about a woman's body that she can create without first receiving. If she wants to create life, she has to first receive sperm. If she wants to create milk, she has to first receive nutrition, liquid, and hormones. Women have to receive before they can give. And so in telling a woman that she has to give, women have become drained. We've become overwhelmed. We've become a life shell instead of a life force. And it has made us very easy to be controlled, because when you're tired physically, you're tired mentally and emotionally. And usually when women are mentally tired, it's from disappointment. And so when you have a society of women who are giving, even though they literally have nothing to give, they have no energy, they have no strength, they have nothing left. And they're like, well, you're supposed to give. You're supposed to show up and push through and be there for everyone. Except that's not our natural role. Our natural role is to receive and transmute. Our natural role is to create after we've been given and collected the people, resources, and money that we need.
So let's go into, well, like, I think people understand like the whole receive, but what do you mean by transmute?
Taking one thing and creating it and making it into something else. Just from a physiological perspective, look at what a woman's body does. It takes a sperm and an egg and creates a life. And without a woman's womb, that is not possible. A woman's body will take nutrition and turn it into milk. That's transmutation. That is taking one thing and turning it into something else. Another way of looking at this, or another word people might be familiar with, is alchemy. Taking something of one value and turning it into something of an even greater value. That is what women naturally do.
How would
this
they
is
do
why
that?
we have a house and turn it into a home.
Okay. I was like, okay, give us some other real world examples that are a little bit more, they feel a little bit more esoteric rather than
Sure.
creating a baby or creating milk. But yeah, a house is different from a home for sure.
Mm-hmm. It's it's cooking dinner versus providing a meal that people sit down and connect and have a conversation around. It is, there's a reason why when women plan an event, there's a flower arrangement on the table. And when men plan an event, the table is blank. It's those detailed, finite touches that make people feel, that help people feel safety, feel nurturing, feel connection. Yeah, just breathe that in for a second. And I invite all of the people that are listening to this right now, especially the women. When I say you are not a natural giver, feel the tension in your body release. Because you've been holding this false narrative about it is your duty, it is your calling to give more than you have, and it is destroying you. So just take a deep breath and let that go. So Allyson, I know the very next question you're going to ask me is, well, what does this look like in the real world?
Yep.
Practice receiving. If it's too much for you to stop giving, then continue to give. But practice receiving as much or more than you're giving away. Just start there. Receive a compliment. Just say thank you.
Do you know what's interesting to me about that is the hardest thing for women to do, is receive a compliment.
Oh, you mean that I can be told I have value just for existing? Weird.
And let me tell you why there is no value to this shirt, because it's so old and I just slopped it on today, or I didn't even do my hair today. I put no effort into it. Therefore, I can't actually fully receive this. Like, we deflect. We either won't receive it at all, or we'll deflect
and diminish.
And diminish. And we'll be like, oh, I love your eyes. It's like we feel this compulsion to, like, now we have to quick turn around and give a compliment.
Oh, you gave me something, so I can't actually have more than you. So I'm going to hurry and give you something back because otherwise I'm selfish. This is one of the things Allyson and I talked about before this call was a lot of women fear receiving because they don't want to be told that they're selfish.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to Allyson, well, it's interesting because the only people who have ever called me selfish are the people that I say no, because they're asking me to do something for them that I'm not willing to do. So who's the selfish one in that scenario? Me for having boundaries or you for being like, how dare you not do what I tell you to do?
I have a different experience that I had with selfishness with my husband many years ago, probably 15, 16 years ago. So Jeremy is not the same man now that he was then, and he has no problem with me sharing this story. But back in another life, I worked for a direct sales company. And if you know anything about me, I'm super ambitious and really, really driven, and I like carrots, which means the big trips that they would unveil, I was going for all of the big ones. I wanted the top honors. I wanted the top awards, all of that. I'm a natural performer. And so I sat down with him, and we had 4 young children at the time. And I said, and the big trip that year was London, to work for was London. And he didn't like to travel. And he certainly did not like to travel internationally. And I said, this is what I want to do. The big trip is to London. And what do you think? And he said, I think you're being really selfish. And I was surprised by that, but I didn't have my own sense of worth at the time to defend that at all. He's like, we have small children. You're going to leave them for 10 days and go play in London. And you're going to work so hard to get to London. And like, I think you're being really selfish. And I said, you're right. I full on agreed with him. You are absolutely right. I'm totally being selfish with this. And I did it anyway. And he actually, and I did go to London, and it was fabulous. And I didn't take him because he didn't want to go. And I took my best friend, and I had more fun with her than I would have ever had with him, because at that point in our relationship, all I did was tap dance around him so that he'd like me and approve of me and love me and provide for me. Which is another part of, like wounded feminine that
disempowered,
that super disempowered feminine that we were in. But we are taught that we can't go after our desires because our desires are going to hurt other people. What do you have to say about that, Laurel?
Oh, this is one of my soapboxes. So the word desire is so misused. The word desire is actually Latin, desire, the Father. So, and I know the majority of your audience are God-fearing women. And so I'm going to talk about the Father as God the Father. Desire actually means the Father, the will of the Father. So desire is not a head thing. If you have to have a conversation about whether or not you can have it, about how you're going to get it, that's not desire, that's your head. Your heart is where desire comes from. And if your heart is connected to God, your heart's desires will always be alignment. That's actually what desire is. Desire is alignment with your mind, your body, and your spirit connected to God and source. So when you follow desire, the universe will bend over backwards to support you because it's the will of God.
Oh my gosh, I love that. When you follow your desire, and I would add this with the expectation that you will receive it, because you talked earlier in this podcast that women are disappointed.
Yes.
The big emotion that we run in is disappointment because we don't actually expect our needs or our desires to be met. But if you will follow that desire with expectation that you will experience that desire, the universe will bend over backwards to support you because it's the will of God. I love that so much. I'm going to make a vinyl cling and I'm going to put it on my wall. Because it's so true.
It is. And it's hard because women are so disconnected from their bodies. And this is why it's hard for us to follow desire, because desire is not in your head. Your head is your clock. Your heart is your compass. So when you're feeling lost, why would you look at a watch? You wouldn't. You'd look at a map. You'd look at GPS. Ask when women are feeling lost or confused, or they don't know who they are because they've been programmed to think that they are required to give more than they have, and they're worn out. And we ask our head, I can't do this anymore. And someone says, what do you want for dinner? And she's like, I don't know. Last time a woman decided what to eat, they got kicked out of a garden. Why would I choose now?
Right. And yet what she chose transmuted and
all.
transformed and brought all of this.
Yes. When a woman follows her heart's desire, transmutation, your desires, your doing actually matters. How many of you have done just so that you can prove that you have worth? I have to do X amount of things in order to deserve that goodness. I have to work hard. I can't do less because if I do less, then I'm less than. Mm-hmm. What if you chose to say, I can do less and still be enough? Because doing is not embodiment. Being is embodiment. Being a woman who values receiving because she knows she's worth receiving. She knows she's worth taking care of. So these are simple things like when I got up and got dressed and took a shower this morning and did my hair and makeup, it wasn't so that I could prove to other people that I had beauty. It was because I know I'm worth taking care of, and those things make me happy. One is doing, one is part of who I am. It's embodiment.
So is it just the way in which you're doing it, or what's behind it, like the intention that's behind it, or the purpose that's behind it?
Absolutely.
That changes it from the doing so much into the being.
It's the driving force. Am I doing this to receive love and acceptance from the outside world? Or am I being this because it's true to my highest, truest, favorite self?
I wonder how many things we would drop doing if we ran through that filter.
So, when I work with my clients one-on-one, they're like, well, I don't love doing dishes, so I can't. And I said, right, but do you embody someone who lives in a house of order, or do you embody someone who lives in a house of chaos? Because now doing dishes takes on a new meaning. And you can also look and say, well, am I someone who has to do everything myself to prove that I'm strong and to prove my worth and to prove my independence, so I will do it all on my own? Or are you someone that says, I allow others to help me and serve me in my purpose and in my cause? Kids do the dishes.
Right. That's why I had you. I used to tell my kids, I had you because I hate unloading the dishwasher. And so each of you gets a turn to unload the dishwasher. It's why I had 4 of you. And one of you can take a bye day every day because I hate unloading the dishwasher.
When I'm the youngest of 7 children, and we used to ask my parents all the time, can we buy a dishwasher? And my dad used to say, I've already paid for 7.
All right.
So, but I want to actually speak into that for just a moment, because that's one of the reasons why we have programming that says our value and our worth is tied to what we do instead of who we are. And no parent ever wanted to give their child programming that said, if you don't do, I won't love you. Because if you ask a parent, their child could show up doing absolutely nothing for the rest of their life, and their parent would still have absolute love and affection for them. So this is hard. And I recognize every person listening to this will have programming that says your value is based on the tasks you complete. Your acceptance is based on what you do. So I hear that. I recognize that. I feel that. But how much of that is true? The people in your life who really, truly love you, when you show up as you truly are, in your most vulnerable, authentic self, they don't care what your house looks like. They don't care what your makeup looks like. They care about how they feel when they're with you. And that is embodiment. Do you embody someone who gives love and willingly receives love? So this is with receiving, because this picture just came into my head, if I can share it really quickly.
Of course.
Think about the people you love giving gifts to. They're the people that when they get their present, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I can't believe you bought me a present. And they haven't even opened it yet. And they're already thanking you. And they're like, this is amazing. Oh my gosh, you thought of me. And I love crystals. And people are like, a rock, you bought me a rock. Oh my gosh, I love that you bought me a rock. And I'm like, actually, it's a stone. It's a crystal. It's rose quartz. It's for your heart. And I love giving people those gifts. Everyone loves giving those people gifts. Who do you hate giving gifts to? Oh, you shouldn't have. Why did you buy me a gift? Oh my gosh, I've got to go get you something now. Oh no. Or they're rude about it and they're like, why would you buy me something? I didn't even want that.
Yeah.
So women who complain about not having support, which receiver are you? Are you the person that says, come and help me, and then people help you and you complain and get into control and you don't receive help because you didn't get the gift you thought you were going to get? Versus the woman that's like, oh my gosh, you bought me a rock. I'm so excited. I will receive this. And before I get misunderstood, that does not mean you have to receive things you don't want. Because you can graciously say, oh, thank you for thinking of me. Because if you're honest, how many of us would actually love to know that right now there is someone in this world thinking of us and loving us? That in and of itself is a gift, and we won't even receive that. Thank you for thinking of me. I do not wear clothes like that. Thank you for thinking of me. That was so kind. So I'm not saying you have to receive things you don't want. Receive the gesture that someone thought enough about you to purchase something, to make something, to remember you. Will you even receive that?
I will.
Good.
But there was a time when I wouldn't.
What changed? What allows you now to receive that before it didn't?
Well, I learned how to be a woman instead of a smaller, less hairy man, which I learned from you. I learned how to be a woman, and I let it be okay to be designed the way I was. I started trusting more in my desires. I started trusting more and following my heart, because when I finally did that, every time I followed my heart, it led to a blessing. We had such a great time in London, such incredible memories that we made, because instead of following my husband's fear, that whatever his fear was at the time, I let him have his fear and think whatever he was going to think about me, because he was going to anyway, and do what my heart just called me to do. It's why we're having this conversation now, and why I have the company that I have now, because I finally started trusting my desires and trusting that they weren't leading me off a cliff. And I think so many women have followed their desires before, and they felt that it has led them off a cliff of sorts, whether a financial cliff or has put massive amounts of upset into their relationships. And they're like, whoa, this just isn't worth it. And they think that they were led to the end, when actually that upset is just the middle.
Yes.
And you got to keep going. And then you get to the end, and then you're like, oh, so worth it. So worth it. So I do want to talk about this for just a minute, because one thing that I've noticed, and we've had conversations about before, is why is this conversation more relevant today than it has ever been? Like, why do we get to be unapologetically women now? And not only do we get to be, why must we be?
Well, our conversations lasted hours, so I'm not sure where you want me to summarize that down totally into the next 10 minutes, Allyson.
They totally do.
So my short answer for that is this. There is a global shift happening. This is actually the first time in history when it has been safe for a woman to be heard, to be seen, to create her own independence, and not have that actually destroy her world, but create her world. And because of this, the world is entering a feminine uprising, a feminine healing, and it's a divine feminine healing, because right now feminine energy is the healing energy, and the world needs to heal right now. And so you have women who are noticing they have spiritual gifts. You have women who are wanting to start businesses that are influential businesses. There's an entire industry called influencers, because we are at a time in history when people, specifically women, have the safety of stepping into their divine feminine energy and actually having that benefit the world and them. But we need more women to answer the call. I'm going to be bold enough to say this. There are so many women right now who have felt the tugging on their hearts. They are waking up to their spiritual gifts. They are seeing and noticing and aroused to all of their senses, and they're frightened by this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because they feel it, but they don't know what to do with it. And so learning about that divine feminine energy, what it feels like in your body, what it does for your money, whether you have a business or not,
Mm-hmm.
what feminine energy does to pull people, resources, and money to your family, what feminine energy looks like and feels like in the body, in your actions, and in all of the different ways, connecting to your womb. That's a huge thing for women. There's so much programming around that. But it is very important and a very significant time in history right now that we are able to feel safe enough to progress exponentially and unapologetically.
Mm-hmm. And I have felt that for sure. And I have also seen and felt some real devious and insidious ways that women are still trying to be destroyed.
Very much so.
By taking our femininity away, by taking our womanhood away, like without getting too political, like we can't be mothers anymore. We're birthing people. We don't breastfeed. We're chest feeders. We can't, gosh, what else is going on over in the woke community? It's like the only people who can be women now are men.
Yes.
And womanhood and even manhood, for that matter, is no longer biology. It's now a social construct. And if we don't support somebody who's identifying with one way or another, and I really don't want to get super political about this, but I just want to see how devious it is in destroying women. It is destroying women. That if we are a woman and we value weekly massages and we need to have our nails done and we like to have our hair done, we're being wasteful and frivolous and vain. Vain was the thing that I got pummeled with my family about how high maintenance we are. Or how high maintenance I was. And I was like, it comes out of my wallet, not yours. So what do you care about how high maintenance I am or I am not? So like the whole judgment of the world, the whole judgment about how we're supposed to think now, I'm like that's why this conversation is so critical. And that's why us as women learning how to embody feminine energy, what that looks like in our behavior, what that looks like in our conversations, without being like, pardon my French, but most women think that if I'm bold and unapologetic, it means I'm a bitch. And that is not what it means. No. Somebody might perceive that or receive that from you, but that's not your intention. You got no control over how they receive you anyway.
No. And this is actually one of the more important things. When power is out of balance, no one feels empowered. You have people that are in power and you have a disempowered mass, male, female, feminine, masculine. Yes. So by disempowering women, we are actually also disempowering men. And no balance can be recreated until both feminine and masculine energy find empowered energy, and we get out of this wounded, disempowered energy. And I won't call it toxic, and this is why. Behaviors are toxic, not people and not energy. What we do in the energy we're in, what we do with the emotions we're feeling, that's positive or negative, not the actual emotion. And you have very corrupt people in power right now, both men and women. Let us not be,
Yeah, I'm not
let's not
man
just
hating over
assume.
here.
Yeah.
The
And
whole
so
system is, yeah.
you have very corrupt people in power right now that are doing everything they can to stay in power. And the easiest way to do that is to take away empowerment from the masses, making them feel wounded, disempowered, because we talk a lot about a disempowered or wounded masculine. Let me explain what disempowered or wounded feminine sounds like. She's controlling. She's whiny. She is that princess who wants to sit on the couch and have the universe knock on her door and be like, here's your dream life doll. She goes from these places of, I feel out of control, so I'm going to control everyone around me, to I now must be perfect. And so disempowered feminine is, whether it's masculine or feminine, disempowered energy is what is destroying society. It's what's allowing a woman's identity to be taken away from her.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the sad part about that. As I said before, feminine energy is the healing energy. And if the world wants to heal, then women need to be able to stand up and say, I am a woman. I am a mother. I am a wife. I am a daughter. And I'm going to say this, and we'll see how much problem it causes.
You are a rabble rouser, you know.
There is a reason why corrupt men try to keep women down, because a woman's womb, not her uterus, the womb space that is created in a woman's body from the time that she is created in her mother's womb, is a portal to source energy. And this is why, if you can get someone to hate it, if you can shut a woman down sexually, you can shut her off from God. So if you can get a woman to hate her body, to think it's broken, for it to be abused or defiled by someone else, if your womb is a door and someone kicks it in, that's heart-wrenching. And so there is power in a woman and in her womb, because she is directly connected to source. And
Which
that is
means God,
very
ladies.
threatening, which means God, which is very threatening for those who are not powered by good.
Yeah.
They want to destroy those who are, and they'll do it in every way they can. And that includes making you doubt your identity and your value as a woman. Mm-hmm. We are valuable just being a woman.
Okay. So we have to talk about what we're doing together, because I'm so excited. We did this last year and it was a phenomenal success. And so I was like, Laurel, please, let's do this again. Let's do this again. So, but it's your event. So I want you to speak into this event.
Okay. So we will be having a 3-day event, and you have the option to both come live and in person to Salt Lake City, Utah, or there is a live stream option as well. It is May 12th through the 14th, 2022. So if you are watching this after May 14th, just check back and see what else we're doing, because Allyson and I are not going to stop.
No.
So check back. But if it is before May 14th or May 12th through the 14th, 2022, the event is in Salt Lake City, Utah. It is Discover Your Divine Feminine. And here is the big part of this. It is 3 days of women who are living powerfully in an empowered feminine energy. I will be talking about your relationship with your body, body language, body mapping, actually reading your body and knowing what messages it has for you and what that has to do with feminine energy. Allyson will be talking about prosperity and how feminine energy is what actually allows people, resources, and money to flow to you and through you. It's what brings wealth and prosperity easily.
Yep.
There are 2 other guests that will be there. I'm just going to mention them really quickly. Phoenix Vincent and Kayla. I always say her last name wrong, and I apologize. Osterhoff. Kayla is a doctor in women's reproductive health, and she's actually talking about what physiologically happens to a woman's body when she lives in push and hustle and overwhelm. And Phoenix will be talking about the different archetypes and the different windows into women and feminine energy. And so If you have ever wondered what it looks like, what it feels like, what are the practical skills of living in your divine feminine, you just want to be introduced to the divine feminine part of you, this event is for you.
And we would love
it's
to
gonna be
see
beautiful.
you and hug you if you're a hugger, and just embrace you in sacred sisterhood, because that has also been destroyed or tried to be destroyed. And there is such great power in sacred sisterhood. So we want you to join us in that as well. And do you have the link is in the show notes, but do we have a link that you can say?
Yes. Reflections inside and out event.com/discover your divine feminine.
So it's long, but it's easy to remember. Reflections inside and out event.com/discover your divine feminine.
Correct.
So come play with us, come learn, come be healed, come be uplifted, and leave with practical boots on the ground strategies, which I know sounds completely masculine, but I say it that way because you understand that, and you find value in that right now. We're not just going to talk about fairies and rainbows and puppies that fart bubbles and things like that. We're going to talk about, and we're going to model for you what it looks like, what it sounds like, our own experiences being out of empowered feminine and into empowered feminine, and the difference that makes in your life in, like I said, real world ways. Because Laurel's just like me. We don't like to talk about the theory of femininity or the theory of prosperity. Like, what does it look like? How does it translate so I can make a difference in my life? So we would both love to see you there. I am so excited to just let these other women pour into me as we learn how to receive more, and then we get to pour into you. So come join us for that amazing event in May. And Laurel, I know people are also going to want to know how they can connect with you. So you've got something special for people as well. So tell us about that.
I do. So if you go to reflectionsinsideandout.com, on the main web page there, it'll say get your free body map. And what this is, it is a list of all of your different parts and pieces and a declaration so that you can learn to love who you are inside and out, one piece at a time. And so that is there for you. It is something for those of you who are struggling with wanting to know and understand who you are. Maybe you don't love the way that your body currently looks. Desire comes from the heart. And if you won't listen to your body, it's one of the reasons why you're having a hard time knowing what you want in life. So let me help you heal your body and your relationship with it. So go grab that free map, reflectionsinsideandout.com. Click on the link that says get your free body map.
Awesome. Laurel, like I said, we were talking before. I'm like, this could be a 2-hour conversation. She's like, we should do a 4-part series. So there's something to that. I think you just that pinged for me. So I will definitely have you back. But Laurel, thank you so much for sharing your love, for sharing your wisdom, your expertise, all of your experience with the divine feminine. I know that this has been such a valuable conversation for me, and I know our listeners have had some really great aha moments as well. So thank you all for joining us, and thank you for letting me show you off, Laurel. And to everyone out there, remember, prosperity becomes you, and we'll show you how. Bye-bye.